from your worldview that it's possible for you to end up in a place that has any capacity for morality at all.
Okay, so like, for example, let's take a look at, what is it, ancient Native Americans. I mean, not even that ancient. Let's look at Native Americans who do not have that Judeo-Christian value. Would you say that they were good people?
At some level, yes.
Without the Judeo-Christian values.
With a moral structure that's created into humanity.
Ah, there it is.
And okay.
There it is. Moral structure created into.
So where did that come from?
I mean, I guess the answer you're hoping that I point to is God, which, I mean, I would agree with that. You know, is it we all come from God, and the way I interpret that is probably very different from you. But, so like, for example, let's take the Native Americans. Oh, you know what? Let's just go back to the Israelites real quick. When it comes to, you know, the Judeo-Christian values and the Bible, you know, it all came out of, you know, Israel and Palestine. And then it spread, you know, specifically through Europe, a little bit through Asia, and then through Africa as well, you know, through Ethiopia. And so why is it that God only revealed himself to one half of the world? You know, when you have an entire half of the world over across the waters, why didn't he reveal himself to them?
Well, if you do a study of church history, you'll see that by 600 A.D., the gospel was well over into China, India,
Yep.
and the eastern part of the world.
Yes.
But ultimately, if you go to the book of Romans, you'll see that God reveals himself to every person.
Ah. Really? Do you know the verse for that one? I'm really curious to read that one.
Yep. I know where this one's at.
Perfect. Perfect.
For one, here in our discussion, I know where it's at.
And where would that be?
It is Romans 1 and verse 18. No, sorry.
Oh.
19. Romans 1:19.
Okay, 119. That's good. Romans 1:18.
And 20.
Okay. There you go. There you go. That's a lot nicer than Romans 18.
1:19 and 20.
All right. So, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. So then with that is a perfect verse to bring up, because now I'm curious about, do you think it's possible that, let's say, the Native Americans, you know, they experienced God, you know, if it was made plain to them by, you know, the way that I personally see God. I see God in nature. I see God in people. I see God in the accomplishments of people. I see God in literally everything. So with that, do you think it's possible that the Native Americans saw God and then interpreted God differently? And then the Israelites, you know, they had their interpretation of how they saw God. And then just made their own, you know, humanistic view about them, about God.
certainly take that position. And many people do. Many people have, I believe, and many people do. But I think in part there's a very romanticized view of what many of those cultures were like,
such as Israel's culture
outside of Christianity, and some of them were reasonably good, but some of them were very evil, or what we would consider evil. And so, you can certainly take that view and hang your hat on that view if that's what you want to do. You have the freedom to do that. That's what I'm saying. But
I'd kind of take that view with this context of Romans 1:19. Once again, just my interpretation of it.
But the fully represented righteousness of God is revealed in Jesus. And that comes 3 verses before.
What was it, Romans 1:16 then?
Yeah, 16 and 17.
The righteous shall live by faith.
16 talks about, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation to everyone that believeth, the Jew first and also to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith.
The righteous will live by faith, so to live specifically through that church.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I caught what you said there.
No, it's alright. I didn't say much there. I was just reading the passage. So, okay. Then on top of that, so if God is only, what is it? The righteous will live by faith. That God brings salvation for everyone who believes, first to Jew, then to Gentile. So with that, what about everybody who, is a Gentile? So let's say everybody who lived before Jesus or lived during the time of Jesus, like let's say, Native Americans. I've been bringing up the Native Americans a decent amount, who did not have access to Jesus, who didn't even have access to the Israelite interpretation of God. It does not seem right that now, if I don't believe in God, I get sentenced to hell. But then for them, since they quite literally had no possible belief in God because it wasn't revealed to them through the Bible, would they get sentenced to hell then as well? Or would God rightfully judge them?
I believe, God says I shouldn't say time and time again, but God says that he's righteous, and he judges righteously. And so I believe that every person will be judged on the basis of the opportunities that they had and the choices that they were given. And I leave that judgment in the hands of God. He was the one who created. He was the one who made things as they are. And so he has the whole picture in view, and he has the whole of every life in view. Jesus says he has the hairs, even the hairs of our head are numbered. And so he has the whole perspective, and he judges from that whole perspective. And that's why he tells me not to judge that individual, because I don't have that same picture.
Okay. So, you don't judge anybody then?
I judge myself.
Okay. Yeah, everybody judges themselves. I judge myself all the time. We are all built on judging ourselves because we are in our own minds all the time. So, yeah. Judging yourself can definitely be some good things that can come out of that, but at the same time, some really bad things. It's nice to let go sometimes. But, so...
We have to have the proper framework of seeing ourselves. Mm-hmm. That's the part of this. Our mistakes, our failures sometimes come out of our limitations as well. And so when we recognize that we're limited, then that helps us to let go when it's appropriate.
Okay.
So you said, you asked the question, so you don't judge anyone. And I would say it this way. I don't believe it's right for me to condemn. Mm-hmm. But I think that it is my responsibility to judge between right and wrong for my own life, as well as to speak to what I see as right and wrong in response to what God has done for me. And I'm not saying that in the sense of, I'm trying to say that in the same sense that Jesus said to the woman who was caught in adultery, "Neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more." He didn't bring condemnation on her, but rather he said there are proper ways to live that are important and that matter. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to make those judgments about that there are proper ways to live. But I don't think it's my job as a Christian to condemn.
Mm-hmm. There's proper ways to live according to the Bible.
Well, I would say that you have expressed that there are proper ways to live.
Yeah.
And improper ways to live.
It's the golden rule. Treat others how you would like to be treated.
Okay. So, there are proper ways to live.
Mm-hmm. Just don't hurt people.
You and I agree on that.
Yeah.
So, I believe that we need to make those judgments. Mm-hmm. For ourselves and express those in communication with other people. Mm-hmm. I actually think that if we just spoke in relation to what we believe are those right ways to live, there wouldn't be many ways that we would actually disagree. There would be a few. In some senses, one of them would be about what the meaning of love is, what it means to love, but
what do you think it means to love?
Many of the things that you're saying, self-sacrifice.
I can agree with that. I can absolutely agree with that.